My house was sort of out farther away from town. We had neighbors, but they were very few and far between. There was a hiking trail opening across the street from our driveway, which was very long and can't be seen from the trail. My room had a large window facing out to the driveway. Anyways, I was home alone, cleaning my room and singing We Are the Champions extremely loudly, as well as playing it on my TV. I looked up and I suddenly see a man power walking up my driveway very quickly. It's obvious no one is home but me since there aren't any cars in the driveway. So I ran to the front door, which was open because it was hot as hell outside, and locked it, and closed and locked my window. Turns out bro friend did not like that. I called 911 because he was still approaching my house and I was getting scared by his demeanor. While on the phone with the 911 operator, he started banging on my front window by the door, and then the door itself. He tried kicking in the door and tried breaking the window. I went and hid in my mom's closet because it locked from the inside only, with a knife until the cops showed up. By the time they showed up, he was already gone, and there were hand and shoe prints all over the door and front window, and some handprints on my bedroom window. They found him about an hour later, walking up and down my street. He told them that he had heard my pretty singing voice and just wanted to say hi. He was also very drunk, but admitted to being sober at the time of the incident and started drinking after I had rejected him. He also told them that he planned to come in and have some fun with me after he found out that I was home alone, and that he was waiting for nighttime to come back. So yeah, I had a lot of nightmares about that one. I used to love just sitting on my swing back in my backyard at night and listening to music. It was, and still is really, very cathartic because I live basically right on the edge of a fairly large and densely wooded area. Also, my best friend, B, lived 2 houses down from me and went running every single night. Rain, snow, sleet, sick, whatever. I could probably count on one hand the amount of days he hasn't gone running in the past 10 years or so. There isn't any wildlife where I live that I'm really nervous about, aside from bobcats or maybe black bear or coyotes, but all of those avoid people. And I've never heard of someone seeing a bear from where I'm from. Also, I make it a point to try to work through things as rationally as possible, and I also make it a point for myself to try not to freak out about random creepy stuff because I hate feeling afraid or helpless, and there's always an explanation. Anyways, one night, just like any other night, around maybe 10 p.m. or so, I decided to go sit on the swing. I gathered my jacket, headphones, and a beer and walked outside. Immediately upon stepping onto my driveway, I got this really weird feeling like I was being watched. Thinking nothing of it because it was nighttime and it was probably just my primitive brain, I turned the corner by the edge of the house and started walking back towards the swing set. Every step that I took, that uneasy feeling got stronger and stronger until I had almost reached panicky levels. I could feel it in my stomach, my body suddenly felt very cold, and at this point, I accepted mentally that I was alarmed about something. However, I still rationalized it as my primitive brain just doing its job. The weird thing is, as I got closer to the swings, I started getting more and more nervous than I already was. I reflexively started walking slower, to the point that eventually, I came to a complete stop about 10 feet away and, accepting that something felt really weird, began to look around and at the woods. Something was seriously wrong. It felt different outside than ever before. Now, I'm a pretty big guy and athletic. I say that to emphasize that I was in no way concerned about a person walking out of the woods. Absolute worst case scenario, I feel comfortable asserting that I'd be able to outrun 95% of people. And that's if I couldn't physically best them. I just say that to emphasize that the possibility of there being some dude hanging out in my backyard and hurting me wasn't even on my radar. Also, there are no recorded confirmed black bear attacks where I'm from, and chances are high that I'd survive a black bear or a bobcat attack, barring freak circumstances. And like I mentioned earlier, there haven't been any bears seen in my town that I know of, and I feel like it would take a really scared or rabid or hungry bobcat or coyote to just randomly come out of the woods to attack a person. I say that to emphasize that I really wasn't concerned about any wildlife. Additionally, I kinda go out of my way to make it a point to not be afraid and stuff, even when I am. Like, the concept of being afraid scares me more than most things, so I work pretty hard at suppressing that. Anyways, I try to force the weirdness out of my mind, but as I settled down onto the swing, I was afraid. I had no idea why or of what I was trying to suppress it, but I knew deep down I was just scared. Something was seriously fucking wrong. Now, usually, I'll swing for like an hour or so, maybe going through like 20 or 25 songs, and obviously I jam out, so I turn the volume all the way up. I just kind of zone out and daydream. So I swing through one song, pausing the music every once in a while to listen to the night, which I never do. I literally got through one song, stop and go, and the feeling just kept on getting stronger. It wasn't the normal hair standing up on the back of your neck scared. It literally felt like there was this overwhelming, malicious presence that was just heavy in the air. I swear I could almost feel it just pressing down on me from all around. It felt hateful, and I never use this word because I just think it's been cheapened by religious fanatics, but it was truly evil. There's no way around it. Something bad, really bad was there. Something was really, really fucking wrong. So I got up and turned to swing facing the woods, which I never used to do, because my friend B would sneak up on me from the front yard sometimes if I did that. I got through maybe half of the next song, and somehow this feeling just continued to get stronger. It felt urgent. I've read in books descriptions like bone-chillingly terrifying and too scared to move, and I always kind of shrugged them off as hyperbole. I certainly had never experienced anything even close to that until that night. I was fucking terrified. I feel like I can't emphasize that enough. Like, I can't properly verbalize this feeling. I swear to God, I could feel it in my bones, in my muscles. I was literally shivering. I've never been that worried before. I'm a person, I reign supreme of all the animals, but in that moment, it hit me like epiphany. I felt like prey. I couldn't see anything bad out there. I couldn't hear anything, smell anything, but I was completely and utterly horrified beyond all rationality. Like, almost on the brink of tears. I didn't know why. I couldn't rationalize it. So I tried to just go on with what I was doing like nothing was up, but it just kept getting... The only way I can think to describe it is heavier and heavier. You know those videos of mice shaking with terror before they're eaten by a snake? That's probably the closest description to what I looked and felt like. I turned my music off and just sat, fear forgotten, looking around and at the woods, searching, desperately searching for anything that could explain how I felt, so I could write it off as stupid overreaction on my part. Just completely stock and still except my head, refusing to surrender to my baser instincts, despite everything in me telling me to run. It was a warm summer night and I was freezing. I know how corny that sounds, but I swear I think about this moment several times a week, and it was years ago. I could feel it all the way to my bones. My stomach was a knot of ice. It was seriously the strangest feeling I ever had. I could just feel this sense of impending doom, and also this utterly malicious presence. It was like a panic attack, mixed with that stomach-dropping feeling when you know something bad happened but you don't know what, mixed with when you hear something in the house that you know had to be a person, but your family hadn't said anything about coming to the house that night. It was all those feelings combined, and with the feeling you know you're being watched, and that feeling you get when you know someone doesn't like you but you don't know why. It was all those feelings, combined with raw terror, and all amplified like 100 times. I've never been more scared in my life. I literally couldn't take it anymore. Physically, I just couldn't take it. I could barely breathe. I was such a mess. I jumped off the swing and sprinted back inside, closed and locked the door, checked all the doors and windows, closed all the curtains, turned on all the lights, and surrounded myself with an arsenal of melee weapons. In the middle of the living room. I could still feel it, but it slowly faded. I didn't sleep that night, which never happens to me. I can pass out almost at a whim, but I was too high-strung to sleep or eat or leave the couch. I just sat. No TV, no books, just sat thinking about what the fuck just happened. The next morning, I saw my friend B by his car, so I walked over and started telling him about it because I was so confused and pretty deeply disturbed by the experience. Even after that long body of text, I don't feel like I conveyed how bizarre and terrifying it actually was. So, as I'm telling him, he held up a hand and said, Hold on, stop right there, come with me. So we went into his house and we walked up to his little sister S. He said, Hey S, What did I say last night when I came in from running? Why didn't I go running last night? She looked at us weird and said something to the effect of, you felt like something was out there and you didn't feel safe. She said that, completely unaware of what I had been saying. Apparently, he lives 2 houses down from me. He walked outside his stretch before his run that night and felt a weird vibe. As he walked to the end of his driveway, it got stronger and he started getting nervous. He started running and stopped after a few feet, turned his music off, and scanned the woods. Then he started running again, got to my driveway, and was so scared, uncomfortable, and freaked out that he just decided to call it quits for the night. He never does that. When we were talking about it the next day after talking to his sister, he said that he literally felt like a prey animal being stalked by something evil. It was exactly almost to a T how I had felt. Everyone always kind of laughs it off when we tell them that story and thinks we somehow colluded and matched our stories up, but he specifically took me in to talk to us before I spoke so that I know there was no bullshit. I have absolutely no idea what it was. It hasn't happened again since, and that was like 3-4 years ago. Anyways, now I only swing facing the woods, and I carry a bat down there with me, even though I don't feel like I need it, but just in case. That's the scariest thing that's ever happened to me, and I still think about it all the time. One evening, my dog, who sadly passed away this year, used to like standing on the stairs and looking out the window to watch the world go by. One evening, my parents went out and my dog was on his usual spot when I hear a very low growl. I came out of my room to see him and he growls again and shifts slightly, but he's focused on the window and he doesn't budge. His hackles are up and his body language is stiff. I'm thinking it's a fox or cat that's triggered him, but I'm concerned that it was the first time I had ever heard him growl. I take a look out of a different window and I can't see anything. I knew enough not to try to move any dog on whilst in that state, a risk of dogs redirecting, etc. So I left him to it, and eventually he comes and settles outside my room after pacing along the hallway for a bit. But he won't come into my room when I call him. He's just fixed in my doorway. After an hour, a police helicopter flies over and circles around the area. That's normal for that part of town, and I don't make a connection. I just figure something spooked my boy. The next day at around the afternoon, we get a knock on the door from the police. The evening before, a young girl got followed off a bus and sexually assaulted on a nearby green, and the dirty bastard ran off and hid in people's gardens after he was done, and had tried a few people's doors and windows to see if they were open, and the police wanted to know if we'd seen anything unusual that evening. My dad answered in the negative as he was out with my mom. However, I wasn't in when the police knocked and only heard about it later when my dad told me about the police. The guy was eventually caught and charged as they traced the card he used to board the bus he followed the girl off of. It wasn't his first offense either, and it was all over the local news. I suspect the guy was hiding in our garden, and my dog had spotted him and knew the guy was dodgy, so he had gone into guard dog mode, which was unusual as he was a big soppy baby who loved everyone. I really miss him.
Big up to all my peoples. I done dug into my bag of tricks, came up with some different skits. Not your average mafia, I be on some different shit. You know I'm pimping shit that make you use your mind. So if you can fill in the blanks, do it when it's time. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Feel like I'm in hell, but I wish I wasn't. Yeah, you got it, now knock it while I rock it. I stick plugs in the socket and money in my. Yo, I get psychotic when you try to diss my staff.